Welcome back. We are doing another edition of Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020. This is a production of Indie Reads TV, and we find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. Once again, we have back on the program Angelique Clemens. Sure, a really, really fascinating book that I think speaks to a lot of super important ideas and concepts about interaction and relationships, and that I think it's a great book. It's definitely on my TBR pile. So I'm looking forward to talking with her more about that today. Angelique, welcome back. Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Happy Thursday.
Yeah.
Or as my husband calls it, Friday Eve.
Yeah. At our house, we call it Trash Day Eve because tomorrow is Trash Day. So
here as well. He just took out the cans.
Yeah. Yep. So you wrote this really great book, and it was just fabulous. Remind us again of the title because it's long and I always get it wrong unless I'm looking at it.
It's called Can I Borrow Your Skin?
There you go. I always want to say, can I get under your skin? But I know that's not right. Yay! There it is.
Yeah.
And you read a little bit from it the last time that you were with us. And today, in addition to our regular Q&A that we have for the second encounter with our authors, I wanted to talk to you about the companion piece that goes with that book, which is called A Guide to the Mirror. And it's really, really very, very cool. It's super neat. Yeah. And so this is a small chapbook, and it's part guided journal and part reading resource, I guess, is the way we talk about it. Can you talk a little bit about your intention with this chapbook and how it goes with the novel?
Absolutely. So Can I Borrow Your Skin is part self-help book, part fictional narrative, and honestly, it's like it's part fantasy. And with the guide, what I wanted to do was I wanted to pull out all three sections in one place and say, this is my intention. And that's what the guide did. So it kind of explains some of the fantasy parts of it, but it really dove into the self-help part, which I think is really huge because there's so many themes in Can I Borrow Your Skin that are heavy. You know, you have someone who dies because they had a pre-existing condition and their health insurance kicked them off. And so there's a discussion of that. There's a discussion of a woman who in her 30s has to deal with the fact that her parents had her very, very young and she watched her parents grow up. And so it dives into that. There is the discussion about being a young professional and having your whole life ahead of you, as they tell you when you're younger, and so isn't true. And so, you know, so it's that whole discussion about, you know, trying to find love and trying to establish yourself in your career and what that means. And so there's all these different
that identity piece that I think runs through all of those themes is a really strong thing. And I think that's part of what you're doing with the guide, right? Is to help get into that identity
piece. And so I termed it the self concept because so many people struggle with that self identity, that who am I piece. And in the guide, I literally help walk people through identifying themselves, because it's so easy to say when someone says, oh, hi, my name is such and such, you know, and you're trying to introduce yourself. First thing you do is you grab onto the relationships in your life. You say, oh, I'm a mom, or hey, I'm a, you know, and so I'm a scientist, and you start to explain yourself by your relationships, but that's not all you are. And that's not who you are. And so the guide walks you through being able to define yourself without being a wife or a mother or your profession or your religion, or, you know, all these things that we as people immediately grab hold to because it's easier to say, hi, I'm such and such parent and I do this for a career and I go to that church. Because those are things any and everyone can identify with. But at the end of the day, who are you really? Because you're not that church. Yeah, you could be a parent, you could be a really good parent, but that's not who you are. And so
sure. Yeah, I remember growing up in my household when my parents would have parties and people would come in the door. It was my job to take their coats and I would say, hi, I'm the daughter.
Yes.
You know, not really who I am, but yeah, I'm the daughter. You know, I'll take your coat. You know?
Right.
So
and to a certain extent, in that same group of people, you're still the daughter.
Right. Exactly. To this day, 35, 40 years later, I'm still the daughter.
The daughter.
So yeah, I definitely get it.
And so that's kind of what Can I Borrow Your Skin deals with. And the guide helps you walk through breaking out of being just the daughter.
Got it. So at this time, I'm going to invite everybody to turn on their microphones. And if you have questions for Angelique, if you were able to either be a part of our last reading or watch the replay, and you have questions, we'd love to hear those questions at this time. Anybody have one? Open the mics. Oh, go Kate. Yay. Thank you, Kate.
I have a comment and a question. When you were describing that, I think that would be such a wonderful book to gift people at milestones like high school or college graduation, instead of like 10 people giving you a copy of Oh, the Places You'll Go. I think that this would be a lot more useful, especially for people that were maybe a bit more sheltered, where they went from living at parents, graduated from high school, went to small college, and didn't really have access to start identifying themselves to anything in that broader part of the world. So I think that would be an amazing idea. And I'm going to actually jot that down for myself to remember, because I have 9 nieces and nephews. So there's going to be some graduations coming up. So my question is, I'm going to try and revive my conversation killer question from earlier today.
Oh, no, you're fine. I can talk a lot. Nothing kills my.
Oh, good. Yeah. I felt kind of bad earlier. I think I may have scared somebody really badly earlier. If we were to give you a blank check and you can use that check for any amount of money, and you have to spend it on just one thing in your author, writing, life, career, what would it be? Would it be more marketing? Would it be a virtual assistant? What would you pick?
And, that's funny, because for me, one of the reasons why I ventured off writing my book, and one of the themes that's very, very important to me throughout not only Can I Borrow Your Skin, the guide, and the affirmation book that I did, I am a huge, huge supporter of STEM and also helping battered women and women who have been trafficked. And so what I actually do, you can go to my website and read all about it, is after every so many books I sell, I do a huge donation either to STEM or to a battered women's shelter. And that's really, really important to me. So if I got a blank check, I'm going to donate it to 2 places. One, I'm donating it to either First Robotics or RoboCats, which are both robotics programs that specifically support young women in STEM, engineering and sciences. And the other part of my money, there's actually a big program that's sponsored both by the Detroit branch of, I live in Detroit, the Detroit branch of the FBI, with the joint task force that they do with the DEA and a couple really big religious groups here in Detroit, to help bring women who were found in traffic situations get out.
That's awesome.
I know that you really want me to say, oh, I will use it in marketing, I'll use it in this. Honestly, I do enough marketing on my own. At the end of the day, I told my husband, if I sell a lot of books, I'm going to buy a mid-engine Corvette, and that would be great for me. But I grew up in a GM family. I'm all about the vet. And that's great. And that's what I went into this book wanting to do, is buy a fancy, fancy car. But what my real passion is to help others. And if I got a blank check, that would be what I would use it for.
That's incredible.
Wonderful. I think that I know that we talked about this, I think it was back in June, about how many people don't realize how much human trafficking happens in the Detroit area. It's an international border. The fact that when the auto show happens, there's this huge influx of people bringing young women into town. And I think that people are genuinely shocked by that, but it's something that I don't think gets enough attention.
Kate. Michigan in the United States, we are 10th for human trafficking, but we're second for. So while we do have a lot of people who get trafficked through our borders, even when they're very, very tough, we recover more people than every other place in the United States except for one. Like I mentioned that I'm a scientist myself. One of the reasons why I love STEM is I was supported even when I was a little kid and didn't even know what science meant. I was like, science. And so I went into forensics, and back in 2014, I actually hosted a forensic conference here in Detroit and invited the Detroit branch of the FBI to come and speak. And the woman that I had come and speak was one of the people on the joint task force that was doing recoveries for human trafficked women and girls. And it was heartbreaking. At the end of her talk, everyone was crying, and we actually were having a party right after her talk at the Michigan Science Center. So people are like wiping tears and ordering drinks. It was bad. But it was also good because we do here in Michigan, we are second in the country for recoveries, and that's huge.
That's enormous. Yeah.
They do so many stings and they have so many programs to try to help get people out of that lifestyle. And for me, as a woman, not only a scientist, being Black from Detroit, you know, my family did a lot so that me and my siblings could have an upper hand, but not everyone gets those opportunities. And so I've been that woman, you know, trying to comfort someone coming out of one of those situations.
I think it's awesome that. Yeah, and I think it's awesome that you're using the power of the pen to do things like this. I mean, to bring it to the fore in your writing. I know Kate does the same thing with her book. She talks about human trafficking in her book as well. So I just think it's wonderful that we're creating conversation through the power of the pen, which I've always been a huge proponent of. Absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions? Questions, comments, anything?
I always have questions.
I know you do.
And just FYI, Kate, ask all day, girl. You ain't gonna kill the vibe.
Wait, has she got wine?
I feel better. I felt really bad earlier.
And I missed out on whatever was really bad. I feel. Oh wait, I was working.
You were working. Yeah.
What were you thinking?
So, Andrew, what was your thought? I know you had one.
No, I have lots of thoughts on this.
I know.
First, I want to say I appreciate everything that you do. The ideas that you're setting forward, that people are important, seem to have been lost in a lot in today's society. But how does that affect where you're going to go from now? I mean, you've got a book, you've got a good foundation, you've got a real nice workbook that goes with it, and you're addressing a lot of very tough social situations. But in my opinion, we keep coming up with more social situations every day. What are you going to attack next?
And so that's a good question. So one of the things, and I really struggled at the beginning of the pandemic, and just with the divisiveness that's going on in the United States right now. And, I was actually having a conversation with a young lady today, and she goes, "Oh, your eyes are pretty. They're so light. What are you exactly?" And, for the record, I'm German, Native American, and Black. And in that conversation, she was saying, "Oh, that's interesting. Have you ever traveled?" And it's like, I travel all the time. And being a Black American is so different than being a Black German or a Black person from the UK. And struggling with that earlier in this year, and honestly still today, one of the things that I decided to do was every Friday, I invite somebody to go live with me on Instagram, and we talk about some really heavy topics. And actually, we're talking about human trafficking tomorrow on the Facebook Live, not Facebook, Instagram Live. And so that was my next thing. Like, it was difficult for me to go through this time period without having an outlet. And, you know, my dear sweet husband, who's sitting over here trying real hard to be quiet, that's so difficult for him.
Let him talk. Let him talk.
He can talk, but like, it's a lot. But you know, I'm in an interracial marriage, and it was so difficult at the beginning of just the negativity that was coming out and some of the deaths that were happening. And he and I have had so many conversations, and he's like, you should talk to other people about this as well. I think that was his way of making me stop talking to him.
So is this an idea? Is that an idea that you might want to take your writing in that direction to talk about those things in the next book?
I was thinking about that with my next book, but you know, my books are not PG. They are definitely adult books. And as much adult content that's in my books, I don't think someone can handle a sentence that was all swear words, which is sometimes what happens when we get into these conversations.
Okay.
And so it was easy for me to think of another platform. And so what was next for me was to design a discussion series with a core group of readers and family and friends to just talk about some of everything. And one of our biggest topics is, what do you do when you are overstressed? And so that's what we've been talking about. And that's kind of how some of the affirmations that are in the affirmation book came about in those discussions. Like, at the end of the day, I have to sit in the mirror with myself and say, okay, day's over. I have to hold the brain in, because sometimes it wants to run away. So we hold the brain and we say, okay, day is over. What did we learn? What do we want to do different tomorrow? And every once in a while, you know, I surprise myself with the answers. And so that was kind of my next step. But I am in the process of writing the second book, the sequel to Can I Borrow Your Skin? And
awesome.
I have a working title, but not a working title I can share yet.
Okay.
Well, I guess one of my questions that you just focused on, I mean, you address a lot of adult ideas and adult situations, and as people are aware, some of the situations that you're involved in affect all ages. Have you thought about softening the blow for a younger audience?
So that is a great question. So I did write a children's book that will probably be out in the next month and a half. That's not in the same genre as Can I Borrow Your Skin? And it doesn't cover a lot of the same things, but it also does. And that's the only way I can explain that. So my children's book is called Project AIL. And AIL is Aunt in Love. And it's about the fact that I have a couple adopted nieces and nephews, because I love their parents. Their parents love me, and I've been in their life for 20 plus years, who are some of the sweetest little kids. Two of them live on a farm in rural Michigan, and they are Caucasian. And in taking them out places and doing things with them, it'd be the Black lady with the two little white kids. And we got so many looks, so many stares, and not always nice interactions. And every time they would come up to me, Auntie Erica, who are these people? Why are they trying to take us away from you? And so it was really, really hard. And so I wrote this book kind of as a homage to them, because my one niece actually came up to me because she was told to do a family tree in school. And she included me in her family tree. And the teacher was like, and she drew the, you had to draw pictures or whatever. And it's like, sea of Caucasian people, one little brown person off to the side. And they asked her, well, what's that? She goes, that is my auntie. She is my auntie in love, and I'm not taking her off. And I'm just like,
that's
and so I kind
fantastic.
of wrote the book to explain the importance of relationships and embracing all the people that you love. And so that's kind of a theme in Can I Borrow Your Skin? And that's my first straw at trying to do something that's family friendly, 100% G rated, that you can share and do over and over and over again. And it's based on 100% real life. And it's kind of funny because her mom is a physician like me, but her dad is an engineer, and he's afraid of being hacked and people knowing where they are. And so like convincing him that I could use his kid's likeness in a book it took like a year and a half.
Well, I love this concept, and I would be honored if you would share the book with us when it's released.
Absolutely.
Put it on our Facebook page. Let me know about it, and hopefully by then I'll be able to get back into the TV studio and we can do a program with you there. If not there, definitely here on Zoom. But I would love to do that with you.
Absolutely. Because, I came from, being a little Black girl from Detroit. I have people in my family who are Native American, Germans from Germany, Germans from Switzerland, non-German white people here in the United States. So I have such a collection of different kinds of people in my family. We have French people in our family. We have people from the Caribbean. My family is a hodgepodge. And when we get together,
it's a wonderful tapestry is what it is. Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. And then I married a Scottish Irishman with English roots. So
so you got every continent covered pretty much.
I know the roots. So when we get together, our wedding was hilarious because what did we invite? Like 600 people to the wedding, babe?
Yes. That's crazy.
I heard him. He's there.
Yeah,
my mom is one of 14. There's a lot of us.
I had 42 people total at my wedding, so I can't even imagine.
No, we had at our church, it filled up, and we were close to standing room, and our church goes standing room at 800. So
wow.
Yeah. It was a good Catholic mass. That was beautiful.
Does anybody else have questions for Angelique about her writing or about her next endeavor with the power of the pen?
Angelique, what is your Instagram handle? Because I'm very fascinated about what you're doing over there.
Yes, my Instagram handle is CIBYS, which stands for Can I Borrow Your Skin Novel.
Perfect. Kate's on Instagram a lot.
It's a novel idea.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all because it's Kate's fault that I discovered Instagram, so we're blaming Kate.
Yes, it is.
Instagram is a good little animal.
It is. I only had one other comment, if we have time, is I just wanted to tell you how much you light up when you're talking about these passions of yours. I mean, even through Zoom, I just feel good having sat here and spoken with you and listened to you, and just thank you so much for sharing that with all of us and for doing everything that you do.
Absolutely.
I'm one of those people who feel that you don't work a day in your life if you love what you do. And though some of my work is absolutely heart-wrenching, there's definitely been times where I have sat at my desk and cried real tears because of something that I've had to do professionally in forensics. But if I can help one person and if I can better one situation, I am doing good things.
Absolutely.
And for the past 10, 12 years in forensics, whether I'm, helping Michigan have smoke-free restaurants or doing the things that I do with human trafficking, I I love what I do, and I love that I can impact someone's life in a positive
Yeah,
way.
well, it's very, very clear that you're passionate about what you're doing. Does anybody else have questions or comments for Angelique before we get ready to wrap up? We've got time for one or two more if you've got them. Michael, Dave, Emma, does anybody have any questions or comments? No? Andrew, have you got one more in your head? We have time.
I always have questions in my head.
I know.
So as you've gone down, and we didn't really talk about it much, you have a husband sitting very close to you.
Yes.
As you've written, how has he either inspired or encouraged you to make this work?
Yeah, so I have said several times in interviews, and if you've picked up my dust jacket and my books, I dedicated most, if not all of them, to him, at least partially. I started writing Can I Borrow Your Skin after my father died unexpectedly. It was very, very difficult for me, and I struggled a lot, just getting through the day sometimes. And it was actually before we got married. I want to say it was within a couple months of him asking my father if he could marry me. And I struggled a lot, and I would curl up in a ball on my couch, and he called, and eventually he would be there just physically to support me. And it was a very, very necessary thing. He's always been one of my biggest cheerleaders, one of my biggest supporters. And without him, I don't think that I could have gone through the long nights of working full time, sometimes 12, 14-hour days, and coming home and writing, coming home and going through the editing process. There's no secret between the two of us that I am appreciative of his support, and I owe a lot to him. And he's very aware of that. He's sitting over here
extraordinary.
He's smiling huge. Like I turn around my laptop, you see like
That's so awesome. I mean, it just, when we have
I love you too, babe.
spouses and friends and partners to lift us up and support us, it just makes the work that much easier and more fun.
And it's necessary.
Yeah.
I work a full-time job. I never looked at writing as a career for me. I have to write professionally. And the writing that I've done in my personal life, it was a release for me. I never looked at it as a profession. And the fact that I am making money, not mid-engine Corvette money, but I am making money.
You got to raise the bar.
It's a beautiful car.
Aston Martin, baby. Aston Martin.
From a GM family, so even to my family, Ford is out of the question. And my husband comes from a Ford family, so it's hilarious.
I
never looked. Aston Martin was never something on my radar. But when the mid-engine Corvette came out for pre-order, I was like, ooh, yes, the Midi.
The new Aston Martin just released the Goldfinger car that has machine guns. They're fake, but
we don't need
all
those.
the toys. So you gotta do it. I mean, let's have some fun.
Right? That is
amazing. See, I find this hysterical. You guys are talking cars, and I'm thinking about the next puppy. So I don't know.
I have lots of puppies. So.
I'm a fan of animals and puppies as well. Yes, and my husband just said, "Dogs love you," because we will go places and there will be a dog there that will not talk to anyone but its owner, and it will come and sit in my lap. He's like, "Why does every dog like you?" I'm like,
how awesome. Angelique, I am so pleased we got to have another conversation. You are an absolute delight. And as I say, when your children's book comes out, please reach out to me and let me know so that we can tell even more people about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I just think it's awesome. Thank you so very much. Thanks everybody for coming by.
Thank you guys for joining me this evening.
In case you forgot, this is Angelique Clemens. She wrote this awesome book called Can I Borrow Your Skin? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I'm really excited about this book. I just think it's really going to be a great read, and I'm looking forward to getting it off my desk and into my hands. Thank you so very much for coming again tonight. This has been Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020, a production of Indie Reads TV, and we find our home on CNN TV in Troy, Michigan. Thanks again, everybody, for coming out. We've got a couple more of these going on through the month. Come back and join us. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so very much.